Great. Good afternoon, everyone, and we'll get started. One of the most talked about topics and something that's evolving not even every day, but probably every hour. So let's try and get through this hour about AI. And no better person than to have Vas Bhaskar. Bhaskar is a partner at Elevation Capital, graduate of NUS. I am Calcutta, worked with Bain and Company, the consulting firm, for the longest time, and has been with Elevation for the last 7 years. Uh, we are very lucky to have Vas not only with us at the webinar, but also at Deserve. He works extremely closely with us and asks the right questions all the time, ensuring that our clients get the best out of us. Welcome, Vas. Welcome to the session.
Thanks, Sushmit. Such a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Great. So, as the topic suggests, we've heard so many, and read so many such articles where it says that is India the anti-AI play? Is AI a bubble? Will AI take away our jobs? And so on and so forth. The questions are endless. What we've tried to do, or what we'll try to do over the next 55 minutes, is take a look at AI as the economic concept, as a social concept rather than the technical concept, right? So that's just a very simple precursor to the discussion that we want to have. Um, so let's kickstart it. And I think the question that we're trying to answer is, what does it really mean, right? What does it really mean for the job, for my job, for jobs that we have, for our portfolio as investors, and the economy as a whole? There is a growing school of thought that AI will cause more inequality and so on and so forth. So we'll try and address all these questions. We'll also keep the last 15 minutes for Q&A. If you have any questions, please put it on the Q&A box, and we'll try and answer all of them as we go along. Cool. I thought the best place to start is right at the beginning, which is there is so much confusion about AI. Interestingly, it was about 55 years ago where this term was invented, and it was in an empty seminar hall where no one wanted to attend it because nobody knew what it was. So, Vas, welcome to the discussion, and would love for you to kickstart this. What is AI, Vas?
Yeah, I think let's abstract away all the technical stuff that goes behind the hood, right? But to me, when most of us speak about AI today and we take more a long-term view of what we imagine this to be, I think the simplest visualization is think of the intern, think of that entry-level employee most of you guys have, like in your organizations, in your businesses, right? Today, what does he or she do? And is there a world we can imagine where almost everything that they do can be done by this entity we call AI? That to me feels like the simplest way we should be visualizing at least the next 5 to 10 years. Beyond that, we're all horrible at visualizing things. So let's not go beyond that. But if I take this time frame, that feels like where we should be. Also, I think it's important to know that today we're not there, right? Like for all this conversation of, we'll unpack this more on AI will take away jobs, entry level jobs are going away, like all that put together, I don't think we're there yet. What we have is, I feel, the right building blocks. And maybe today, you know, AI was also, when you maybe talk about not AI, we can talk through that. But this we've gone through iterations through what you said of how we build AI. There's been conversations of literally replicating the human brain to reinforcement learning to multiple other eras of how we have thought about building AI. But finally, I feel we also have the direction of what do we take to build this out. But today there are many gaps, right? Like simple thing, you tell your intern something, he or she goes and sleeps. Next day, they have an abstracted version in their head of what's possible. Just that long-term memory. Uh, as a simplistic example, AI doesn't have that today. You could find the right guardrails and pause for your intern. You could ask him or her to explain their stream of thought. We have, again, baby steps in that direction. We don't have that yet today. But I do think the way to visualize this is like, and each of you can literally take a name, pick a name in your head of the smartest young employee or young person in your businesses, and imagine an entity doing that.
Super interesting. Just to uh, probably double click on this, and if I were to understand what he's saying was is that AI is still a little away from judgment, right? It's great at what he's saying, looking at streams of data, looking at or for want of a better word, looking at patterns and coming out with an answer. But if you were to put a judgment call on it, it is still very, very far away from there.
Yeah, some distance away. Also, I feel, and maybe this will be a recurring theme as we speak, Shushmit, is, it's a truism that all of us overestimate the short term and underestimate the long term. And I think it can't be more true than this today, right? Like today, there are all these visions painted that in a year from now, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. I suspect there's a bunch of other leaps we need to make, right? From chips to energy to like architecture, and you can keep abstracting higher and higher up. There's a lot of work to be done. Um, but take a 10-year view, no universe in which it happens. We went from internet to us doing this conversation today, like in 20 years, unimaginable. I think same trends are going to continue.
It's interesting. Hopefully, we don't have two AI agents doing this conversation uh, in another 10, 20 years. Hope the human face and the human voice is still important for all of us. Uh, cool. Before we move on to the next, Vas, what are the most obvious? You've looked maybe at hundreds, maybe thousands of now AI startups. What can you remember which is not AI but masquerading as AI?
Uh, See, simple automations is the obvious answer, right? Like we've always had RPA, simple automations, etc. for the longest time. I think the super macro mental model I apply is if it's not getting better over time, the more you use it. Like, is your product on day zero the same as a product on day 100 to the day 1000 product? If that's not happening, it's likely not AI. Maybe it is some automation. So I think the simplest um, misconceptions happen between what is automation and what is AI. The other way I frame this question, Sushmit, this AI, what is not AI, is also I feel, we had this conversation around 50 years of evolution of this technology. Um, and, because of different points in time and how we thought of this technology, I think today there are also wrong mental models in a lot of our heads. When I speak to friends, colleagues, etc., there is a certain way people think about AI, which is not true because of how we have finally decided what is AI. And let me give you two examples of that, right? Like one, I don't know how many of you have heard of this. There used to be this very famous paper optimizing AI problem, which has led to this very dystopian thinking that AI is going to end everything for the cost of efficacy. The just to recap that, it used to be, hey, I will train an AI to optimize for paper production. AI is going to go rogue. It is going to cut down all trees. It is going to burn down the very building it's in. It's going to take every human organic matter, finally go and create more paper, and end of the world, right? So it was true. Like there was a time, even ChatGPT early days used to pretty much do this, play a game and optimize for winning that game was how they started. The big breakthrough was this AlphaGo winning, etc. But I think we've moved from there. We're no longer optimizing for a certain end outcome. I mean, it's very interesting. Now we're just optimizing for generating the next token, or very simplistically, the next word. So the level at which now AI is abstracted, the micro units are very different. So, one mental model I wanted us to have, because as we start talking about jobs, where does the world go, social, etc., etc. One, I don't think today the way we are envisioning AI is a black box hyper optimizer. Rather, it is very small micro units which can be constructed together to build something out. So I think that is one interesting mental model to keep in mind. The other one of what's not AI to me is, there is this other simplistic assumption that there'll be one AI god, one AI overlord, which will oversee the whole world, which is where this conversation to say everything is going to be taken over by AI. What will human agency be, and who controls that AI, and so on and so forth. At least again, the way we are architecting things today, the way we're building things today, it is specific AIs for specific tasks. So most likely the world we will see 10, 15 years out is going to be multiple AIs, each with uh, modularity coming together and doing different tasks over which ideally human society has enough control.
That is very interesting. I think for all our listeners, two important mental models. One is, if it is not getting better, then it is unlikely AI. It is a simple automation, and I think the best example of that is textile looms from hand woven textile looms on it in itself did not get better. There was more technological advancement that was needed for them to get better. uh, Number one. And number two is, we should start thinking of AI as small modular units of intelligence that can be combined to a massive outcome. Yeah.
Very
Awesome. Great. That, I think, lays a good ground. Let's dive right into to the most important question, which is, are we in an AI bubble? So, what we've tried to do is, take the four top headlines or top data points, which play both sides. Is it a bubble? I think AI stocks, account for 75% of S&P 500's returns since the last 2.5 years. AI infrastructure spending accounted nearly for all of US GDP growth in the first half of this calendar year. So these are the bubble arguments. Vas, which side do you want to take?
See, I think the hype is real. And there are these numbers you look at anecdotally when I look at where a lot of India private capital funding is going, where a lot of global private capital funding is going. Again, the shift is very palpable. And also investments are happening far ahead of the curve, right? Right from you take an open AI at what valuation, what revenue, like I feel classic P, all that breaks down to even very early stage companies. So in some way, the hype is very real. Um, the two thoughts here are one, it feels like the impact is going to be very, very large, which is why there is an ahead of the curve investments in doing this. And we'll come to a little bit of the impact and stuff as we speak through this. Second, also, it's quite unique in just how quickly this technology has gotten adopted. Like, of course, there's that journey of getting the technology to where it is today. But you think of that first chat GPT, which was 3 years ago, to today, maybe 20-30% of the world using this, and maybe 10-15% of the world using this on a daily basis at high frequency. I think the impact and how quickly this is scaled is quite tremendous. I can't think of another previous technology, right from industrial revolution to aviation to whatever you keep going through the stages, mobile, internet, whatnot. It's taken a certain curve. This curve's been like massive and fast. So that's the thinking there. The other place where I think this analogy keeps happening is when you take the dot-com bubble, right? Because it
Yeah.
feels like a lot of us have lived through it or lived very close to it and seen elements of that happen. So in some ways, there's going to be some correction in the next few years, 100%. All of us are horrible at predicting when that is. So let's not try to do that. But for sure, there is some, to the conversation we were having earlier, some overestimating of the short term. So that's happening for sure, and it will correct and things will get better. But to me, I think the best example is not so much of the AI dot-com bubble or whatnot. I think it is all the way back to the Industrial Revolution. Because what Industrial Revolution was is to say, take human physical power and really expand it. And that really, when you see how it played out over the next 2-3 centuries, it's quite massive, right? From that steam engine to automobile to aviation to everything that we do today. Like almost every part of our life is mechanized or automated. to like even just abstracting away energy generation, like we don't even think about some turbine running somewhere. It's just been massive. Just when we expanded the human physical capability. Um, the simplistic model now is this expands human mental capability. And that you would argue is also where most value creation happens and has happened. I mean, humans are not the strongest, but humans are hopefully the brightest and the smartest. So when you really expand that, what can you do? So that's again an interesting way to think of it. I also feel very difficult to grasp the realm of possibilities today. With even as simplistic as a mobile, we couldn't grasp when the iPhone was introduced that an Uber would get created. That's a relatively simple leap of faith, still, if you think of it. So
Yeah.
I feel lots is going to happen. Like I think somewhere along the way you alluded to it. What happens to healthcare? What happens to education? What happens to different basic human services? I think all that's going to change. Uh, so net net, I feel short term for sure. There is some hype. There is probably more dollars than the space can absorb. But again, in that .com era is when the Google got created, when multiple other large companies got created, and of course there were a lot of casualties along the way. So it's likely going to play out the same way.
Yeah, I think Vas covered both the arguments beautifully, and this is where the biggest dichotomy is, right? And this is where our brains struggle, frankly, both as investors and as doctors, which is it feels like a bubble, but at the same time, there is no doubt that it is revolutionary, right? So how do you handle these two contradictions in your head when you are trying to think about AI? Uh, and it is to be frank, Vas, as you rightly said, it is also very, very fanciful and glamorous to call anything a bubble, right? You get more audience when you call something a bubble than you call something a revolution.
The lazy answer, right?
Yeah, it's a lazy answer. The data points will always stack up. Um and But having said that, at least when we have started using a little bit of AI at Deserve, it is very, very clear to us that it is a revolution, right? Uh, yeah, I mean, I can tell you that the efficiency, actually, it not only unlocks efficiency, it unlocks a few things that we never thought were possible, right? And I think that is the crazy part about AI, as Vas said, that when you expand mental fortitude or mental capacity, what more can you do is actually not an efficiency lever anymore. It is a zero or one lever, right? And I think that to us, at least, initial science is of a revolution. But I should also, since you mentioned steam engine, one very interesting piece of book that I'd read, one very interesting piece that stands out is it took about 10 years for James Watt to go from filing the patent on steam engine to commercializing it for the first time ever, right? So that is the crazy part about invention, right? Innovation takes a little longer than invention does. So, but having said that, AI, the adoption has been just ridiculously fast, right? We've never seen anything like this in our lifetimes. And maybe I'm going to, but indulge me. I'm going to give you an anecdote which happened to me about a year ago, and
Okay.
it is stuck with me, and I can't still get it out of my head. Right, I was in Kanha on a on a tribal rural visit, and there was this 33-year-old uh, lady, farmer lady, uh, earning about 30,000 a month, and I was asking her how she uses phone, and she took out a phone and she actually started using ChatGPT, right? She didn't have Google. She clicked on the ChatGPT logo, and I was shocked. I thought it was some Indian copy paste or jugaad of the logo. She took out the phone, clicked on it, and I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm going to ask whether it's going to rain tomorrow or not."
Right.
Right? She did that, and I was shocked, right? And I asked her, "Why wouldn't you use Google?" She said, in Hindi for effect, and maybe I'll translate it into English. She said, "वो जवाब नहीं देता है, 10 चीज बताता है, मुझे जवाब चाहिए." Right? Which basically in English means I want an answer, I don't want 10 reference links. And that was so powerful, right? And I think that goes back to what Vas said, that the mental fortitude expansion is beyond what we can imagine.
Yeah, and going back to what is AI, right? Like imagine just to extend that same anecdote a little further. Maybe pre-mobile, the same lady would have asked the guide कि कल weather क्या है, and the guide
Yeah.
would have given her the answer to say बारिश होने वाली है नहीं होने वाली है.
Yeah.
Then we moved into a world which was not human like. We said, let's ask Google, it'll give me 10 links, I will look it up. Now we're back to being human like. Suddenly you can ask the technology the same question you asked the guide. So
Yeah.
to say intern or a human being is the mental model to keep, I think that's very helpful.
Yeah. Uh, cool. Vas, now the three big questions that is again more from an investor lens and economist lens for you, Vas, which is will there be more inequality both at all three levels, right? Which is a country level, at an infrastructure or the picks and shovels level, or even at the end application layer. Uh, whichever you want to take, please do.
Yeah. No, I think a good starting point is what we started with, right? Like, I feel uh, once we move away from this simplistic notion to say, there is one AI god who's going to rule everything, it takes away some part of the dystopian view of the world to say, there is going to be one AI model controlled by China, which is going to do everything. And just to go back a little bit and put some of the things into the realm of possibility, when you think of things that way, that same AI model solves for chip design, and hence this person who controls that model has the best chips. That same AI model thinks through 50 different iterations of something at the application layer. And hence, like, it's almost the self-reinforcing loop. If you have this one all-powerful model, the one model to rule them all, and you control that model, then like the person, the country, the entity controlling it just is all-powerful. Um, I think it's very important that all of us move away from that vision of the world, because that's not how this technology has been evolved, architected, built, etc. Uh, so that extreme view of the world doesn't exist. So let's move away from that extreme view of the world. Now, when you move away from that, I think the question is twofold. One is, where does value creation happen? Because value creation will still happen in different pockets. And second is a question which is, when you think about the country level race, a question of sovereignty. At what level do you control what? Can someone else outside your country arm twist you or like stop your progress or whatever, right? Like those are, I think, the more realistic questions at this level. Um, and there, I think there is advantages certain other countries have had, right? Like at a value creation level, um, India has been a little behind China, US, etc. today in terms of where value creations happen. Uh, the only glass half full version of this argument is, one, even if you take the internet, you take mobile, you take a lot of it, a lot of that value creation happened more on the delivery layer, the application layer, right? Where this technology got delivered to the final end user.
Yeah.
I mean, you take most of the large stocks today, your Meta to a Google to Microsoft, bunch of this were either serving the end customer or the end enterprise. So in that level, is India well poised to do it? 100%. Like, we have today the second largest AI user base in the country. Our talent pool in terms of engineers and everything else we need has really expanded over the last decade or so. So in some way, to capture a lot of that value creation, which will ideally happen at this delivery application layer, I think we are well placed. Second, also the lot of conversation around AI, and when we go back and equate it to a human being, is different services, right? Again, from a healthcare to an accounting to a lawyer and whatnot. And again, I think we have done a great job of building services businesses from the country, from IT services delivery to BPO and whatnot. And most likely, the way these models are going to evolve are AI augmented with humans. So again, are we well placed as a country to capture a lot of that services value creation, rethink how an accounting firm works, rethink how a healthcare BPO works, etc., etc. I think again we are well placed. So I wouldn't get too overtly worried on whether value creation will happen from India. I think we will capture a fair bit of value creation. Um, I think the sovereignty question is a real one, and I think it is something that should ideally take up a lot more policy discussion, lot more thinking at all different levels of the government, of the private industry, and whatnot. everything, right? From chips to energy sufficiency, to model ownership. Bunch of that today is not in India's favor. Those are sitting outside the country. And there, I think we have a lot of work to do. And I mean, a lot of thinking is happening. I feel we've started to take baby steps. We're getting better, but I think next 5, 10 years is going to be make or break on that. I mean, we can't let a lot of the supply chain sit outside the country.
Very interesting. I think you know it is, at least it looks like it's going to be clear that there's not going to be one OpenAI or one LLM that rules the world. So I think that we should be, hopefully that is out of the picture. I think today it looks like Nvidia is the only chip maker in the world, and I think that's something that should change again, right? I mean, if simple economics of business should prevail, which is if somebody starts making 45-50% ROCs at 80% margins, there should be enough competition that should come in. There could be different technologies also, right? I mean, Google's TPU technology is something that is still not widely understood, but it could be an interesting competitor to Nvidia. Uh, so at country level, VAS, if I understand, there is two ways to look at it. One is the value capture, and the second is sovereignty, and both of them have to be looked differently, as you're saying. Is that fair?
100%. And if you ask me, I'm not too worried about value capture today.
Yeah,
I do think we have a lot of work to do to make sure the sovereignty remains.
got it, got it. Uh, so let's we've partly answered this, but let's come back to home base, which is how and I think there's no better. I personally believe that there's no better judge of a new technology than early stage venture capitalist in any part of the country, and Elevation is one of the best we have here. So you touched upon the fact that we have significant AI penetration, funding is going towards it. What is happening at the ground zero level, Vask? What are you seeing that people like us sitting a little far away don't see?
Yeah. Let me answer more tactical here and now, and then let's also peer a little bit into the future. Here and now, I'm actually very happy with the kind of talent pool and what people are building, right? And I think I'm seeing entrepreneurs push the realm of the possible a lot. And great to see like infrastructure companies coming out of India, people looking at building Indic models and what do they look like, and a lot of work on the application layer, which is phenomenal because that's where the value capture is going to happen. I think the last decade has been great foundation also because I think when we look at the software engineering talent pool in India, the data science talent pool in India, or even the product talent pool, because a lot of this is also about how do you package all this AI, abstract things away, and really deliver it to the end user. Um, that technical talent pool is, I mean, I would easily say the top 2 or 3 in the world. Um, and also then the ability to deliver it to the customer, right? Which is the GTM capabilities if you're selling into an enterprise or a business, the customer marketing, reach out, customer GTM capabilities. I think on both we have also come a long way just through the last decade or so. So in some way, is the foundation's great. Where we think value creation is going to happen, India is well placed. 100% is happening, and on ground, I'm seeing a lot of activity. Like very simplistically, almost 2/3 of our new investments this year have been AI or AI related companies,
Wow, that's crazy.
both serving India and the world, which is also great because I feel um, the SaaS era also gave us a lot of confidence as a country to say we could build from here to the world. Why be constrained? So it's quite phenomenal just in terms of what we are seeing happen. The other macro way I think of this is, when you think about the internet, mobile, and whatnot, just think of how that played out.
Hmm.
US was already prosperous, and internet and mobile came in later, and it was a band-aid on top, which means value creation did happen, but you didn't fundamentally alter some of the businesses. China was interesting because prosperity and internet, mobile, digitization all happened in parallel. which means a lot of things were fundamentally altered in how they do and work things, right? Like simple, go to a Chinese car factory and go to the US car factory. You know, the US car factory was a physical labor factory onto which technology was put on, versus a Chinese car factory is fundamentally thought of, you know, technology first, right? Um, or you take payments, right? Like, I mean, all, I'm sure multiple of you have gone to the US and you know what's happening there, how broken the payment ecosystem is versus what we do in India today, right? Like, just whip out the phone, UPI does what it does, and similar in China. So I feel as payment penetration affluence happened in these two countries, technology was here. Where I'm going with this is now India is unique as our prosperity journey really begins from this 3,000 odd per capita to we get to this 10,000, 15,000 mid income range. We will grow with AI, which means we will reimagine each of our services very AI first versus layering on AI. Again, like these are decadal views, but think of what does an AI first law firm look like? We are probably going to build that really bottom up first principle without the baggage of things. What does an AI first healthcare hospital look like? What does an AI first auditing firm look like? A lot of that most likely is going to get fundamentally rebuilt from India. So, which is the other macro view I take to say, um, for a US or a China, prosperity is already here, and you know different industries have evolved and matured, and AI is now going to be add-ons and stuff to these industries. And then you say India, we are going to get prosperous with AI, which means we're going to rethink some of these fundamentally. And I think payments a great example, like how car manufacturing evolved is a great example. I'm sure we'll see a lot more of that.
Wow, this is very interesting. Vas, which is when does the technology come in at the growth of the country kind of defines the adoption of the technology also in a way, right? I think the other example that came to my mind when you were talking about it is this whole concept of metros. That we're trying to build in India. Due credit to the government, but frankly, if you try to build a metro after the city is built,
Yeah.
the adoption is not going to be high, right? If you look at the cities where the metro has done extremely well, like London, New York, Tokyo, Hong Kong, or Singapore, the cities were built around the metros, right? After the metros came. So very interesting perspective was there, which is uh, as we are going from 3,000 to 10,000 to $15,000, AI will be an input rather than a band-aid, as you rightly said, for us and for our companies. Interestingly, was we're hiring from campuses, so we go to campuses. I've been to about 20 of them in the last 2 weeks, and the first question that I ask is, how many of you use AI to do your assignments, right? And the response is not 90%; it is 100%.
Yeah.
It is 100%, right? And the best thing is, it is not looked down upon, right? I will give away my age right now, but when we were doing our MBA and we had a valuation course, our prof said, whoever uses spreadsheets will never learn valuation. Right. So we attached sheets of paper to build a discounted cash flow model, and it now sounds so stupid, right? But I think probably that's where AI is. Imagine every MBA grad coming out of our campuses, every engineering grad coming out of our campuses is actually AI native today.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
And which is also, and maybe I'm giving up my bias as somebody involved with Deserve. I feel very excited to say, we are building this organization and our ways of working at a time where AI is really taking over versus very incumbent wealth firms who have their set ways of working and operating. I
Yeah.
do think that really changes client experience, being able to do that fresh with clean slate thinking. And
Yeah.
maybe you can talk a little bit about it, Sushmit. Like you alluded to it earlier also, like what have we been doing at Deserve? What's been some interesting use cases which have moved the needle? And where has it not moved the needle also?
Yeah. I think I'll probably divide this whole impact of AI, not even impact, frankly. At least we have started tinkering with AI and how it's showing up, right? So let's divide it into three aspects. The first is investment management. Second is client interaction, and the first is just pure portfolio understanding, right? Uh, so think of it. This is how we at least think of our business, right? Investment management, I think, is very, very clear. Any alpha is created from three sources, which is information, analytical, and judgment or behavioral. Information and analytical is now, at least for us, almost entirely taken up by uh, automation slash AI. Um, I will now use that phrase with a lot more respect, thanks to us. But yeah, I think there is very clear, what would take 5 man hours to run an analysis on a large set of data now takes 5 minutes, right? And the good part is the it gets better, right? The model starts getting better as you feed more and more data. it let me also tell you that 6 months ago it used to be really bad, right? And that is what is amazing, which is in 6 months it's just become so much better. So I think information analytical, that I would say would become table stakes across any investment management firm, right? Uh, Thankfully, judgment is still in the hands of people like Vaibhav and Pratik, who don't get swayed. We have seen AI models being very, very momentum driven. Again, so that thankfully actually gives us a little bit more edge if you can stay away from it. So that's on investment management. On client interaction, we have now started, using compliant AI solutions to actually give feedback to our client financial partners and client growth partners, right? Just imagine if uh, you know your RM or your CFP had a live coach, right? And somebody who is making him or her better with every interaction. And I think that's the journey that we are on, and it is so powerful, right? It is, people talk about personalization in AI. This is real personalization. If you can make it better, and we all need coaches. Who doesn't need a coach? Even Roger Federer needs a coach. So I think that is the second big instance of improvement that we are seeing at Deserve. Uh, and the last is, just client portfolio understanding. That again, the data is available. We are able to do a great job with our wealth monitor on it. But to create a narrative, as you rightly said, Vas, and I think again a point that is sometimes lost out, is all these modules are there, AI is there, but if you don't package it well into a product, it cannot be delivered to a customer, right? I cannot come and give you some 5 lines of ChatGPT code, right? I mean, that's not going to work. So I think that packaging, we are able to standardize, and I think that is very, very powerful for our clients, right? Uh, which is, it doesn't matter who the person talking is. If it's deserved, they know that the output is standardized and delivered in a certain way. So yeah, I think that's how AI is. At least we're starting to use. Again, I'm sorry to use this disclaimer. We are nowhere close to. If you ask us, adoption, inception rate, 100% adoption rate, abysmal, right? So I think it will take time, but it's a journey. But we will get there.
No, no, 100%. And actually, to this example of the coach, um, and more anecdotes here,
Yeah,
I also feel like just some of the use cases which have evolved already with where the technology is quite amazing. Like as a simple thing, I sit through about 5 to 7, 8 pitch meetings in a day, and now there is a note taker running on the background more often than not. Like a granola is what I use today. Like there's of course like it summarizes the meeting and things like that, but very interesting stuff. Once I've gone through, let's say, 50 100 meetings, I sometimes ask it things like what could I have done better in some of these pitch meetings, and some of the insights are quite interesting. Like it tells me things like sometimes when you ask this provocative question, there could have been a little more context on why you were asking this question. It's quite interesting. What, like, there was no way I could have known this earlier.
yeah,
Or simple, like, I'm being almost flippant here, but sometimes if I forget a number of founder is mentioned earlier in the meeting, through the meeting, I can very quickly look it up.
yeah.
Um, so quite amazing how some of these use cases which just didn't exist, right? Like there was no way I could have had this coach like 3 years ago or even 2 years ago, but today I have one.
And now that you said, one very interesting remark came from a very young joining a firm, and she said that I will take up what an AI agent is telling me as signs of improvement, but I would not take it up from another individual.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So luckily, the AI agent does not have to establish credibility like like a human has to.
And there's less baggage.
Less baggage, yeah. Cool. Moving on to little bit of the scare question, which is, will AI take away my job? I think Vas has partially answered this throughout the last 40 minutes, which is think of it like modular, think of it like augmentation. But is there anything that you would want to add, Vas, that you are seeing on the ground, which is very interesting?
See, again, I feel a lot of this is that same theme of saying in the short term, likely it's going to be small incremental stuff. But when we look back over a decade, it is going to look very massive. Enough predictions have been made by a lot of people who understand this technology even deeper than me. 80% of the jobs are going to get 80% automated in like a 10-20 year time frame. So we're not talking about like next year your job's going to get obsolete, but when you look back at your job, what you're doing today, maybe a decade, 2 decades out, it is going to look very different. So I think that is one, which also means there's going to be enough medium term displacements, across different industries is going to take different ways and forms, which also requires a little bit of right policy interventions, both at corporate levels, business levels, and at the government levels. So I think that's inevitable on how we navigate through this, because I don't see a universe in which 10, 20 years from now, this is jobs are not rethought of and redesigned, which also means there is massive increase in productivity, and then what we do today is not necessarily needed to be done. So I don't think there's any shying away from that. Uh, and the last one, I'm sure most of you uh, would also have thought of this in this way, that when something such of a platform shift, such of a difference happens, like completely new roles which none of us can fathom get created. 1800s automobile industry, nobody knew of it before. Today that whole industry, and you take all the related industries, right from road building and whatnot, like what's gotten created is massive. You ask somebody in the 1750s who was riding a horse carriage, wouldn't have thought of it, right?
Yeah.
All that what gets created. Similarly, aviation, 1900s, the first plane flew, and today like everything from like operators of airports to baggage handling to whatnot, like these are industries and jobs which didn't exist. To social media influencers, the best example. All of us, I'm sure, have lived of an era where social media influencers wasn't a job, and today it is. Or even like chip designers and software engineers, like these didn't exist, and none of us could have fathomed this. So I suspect a lot of new roles and jobs will come up and happen. The only realistic one, tactical thought I deal with a lot is not so much for us and our generation and most of our attendees, and I'm sure a lot of your parents, is how do you think about equipping your kids with the right set of skill sets when they are out for a job 10 years out, 20 years out, right? Like, depending on what age your kid is at. And that to me is a very interesting debate I keep having with my wife. What do you do today? It's going to look a very different world. And not so much of, our parents' world and our parents were different because there's internet. I feel it's going to be a lot more radical. Um, so I feel that's the big one to keep thinking. And as I said, short term, next 5-10 years, we are all going to be largely okay. Um, what is Act Two for us? What is Act One for our kids is the open question.
Cool. This is very interesting. Vas has, in typical Indian parent style, it's not my problem, it's my child's problem. So आप देख लो आपका है. I think the point of horse carriage, aviation, automobile, uh, this is something again. People keep talking about AI taking away the job, and I think Vas spoke about two things, and both are very very powerful concepts, which is any technological advancement leads to aggregate jobs going up. In the meanwhile, you could have displacement, right? And I think that again is the dichotomy, right? Like, which is our brains kind of struggle with it, like bubble versus revolution. Similarly, displacement versus aggregate increase is something that is in a way contrarian in its thought process, or two opposite ends of the same argument. So for us to hold it becomes a little tough. And I think that's the challenge, which is, you know, time and time again, if any technology leads to prosperity, it is safe to assume it will lead to more employment, right? Now, what kind of jobs, as Vas rightly said, who would have thought standing in front of a camera is going to give you money, right? I mean, that's incredible if you think about it, right? Like, it actually, you would be scolded. I mean, at least I was scolded 15 years ago if I would abuse camera, because it would cost money to print the the film, right? So, and to hear where you get paid to click more, right? So I think, uh, again, the other example that is very close to my heart and I should mention is just what happened to stock markets, right? Like, imagine, people who were in the outcry system 30, 40 years ago, when the internet or online trading started. There was actually a strike in a couple of stock exchanges in India, right, saying that we should stop this and NSE is a villain and so on and so forth. And today, I can't imagine how many thousand X's of job have been created because of this technological advancement. So anything, I think that makes technological advancement, we should, at least, past is a good, history is a good teacher, and we should assume that it will lead to aggregate more jobs. The near-term displacement is what gets a lot of spotlight, but I think that's unfortunately a part of the advancement that we go through.
These are jobs, Sushmit. How do you think about what people should be thinking of in their portfolio and their wealth journey? Again, what does it change?
Again, luckily, that's the whole advantage of investing in diversified, uh, funds. Uh, we, we at Deserve don't believe there should be a AI fund that our investors should buy, or a technology fund, or an old economy fund that we should buy. So as long as you're diversified, you hold 5 to 7 mutual funds. They in turn hold 30 to 40 companies. You are unlikely to be uh, whipsawed by a single event. Right? Today, uh, at the other end, if you hold only 5 or 6 companies, and if somebody takes a misstep, right? I mean, it's not even a bad company, right? Somebody can take a misstep on AI. Who knows, right? And that could actually lead to 20% of your portfolio getting impacted, right? So that's why I think diversification, especially in times like these, was which are uncertain, right? At least in the near term, uh, there are a lot of more question marks on who the winners are, who the losers are, how it will play out. While in the long term, it is easier to answer these questions, but in the short term, we believe that hence diversification is the only answer. And we are also honest about it, and we are humble about it, that we don't know, right? And Mr. Buffett said that people who diversify are people who don't know. But yeah, I think we don't know. So the corollary to that is, we should diversify. We try to learn from these things, from people like you, but I think it's not an easy elephant to pin a tail on yet.
Yeah, no, 100%. And if the world is changing so fast, review your portfolio more frequently.
Yeah. Thanks for the plug-in.
Yes.
uh, Changing tracks with the last section of this webinar. I can't believe it's already been 40 minutes, but it's brilliant. So we're going to take two views, right? Which is, what is the VC view, right? How do you look at this, right? Which is, uh, you know, there is a very interesting school of thought which says productivity gains are uh, are could become table stakes rather than economic capture, right? So that's one way to look at it. Secondly, come to Indian IT companies. Everybody believes that we are at the beginning of the end for our companies, but this is an interesting view as well, which is who's going to make our enterprises ready for AI, right? It's very easy to say AI, but who's going to make them ready, right? Reminds me of Y2K. Um, Vas was, young enough to not live through it. I was old enough to live through it. So I have seen what happened there. And third is AI a new way of working, right? So take any one of them, Vas, whichever you prefer, and would love to.
Firstly, as always, the answer is there's a little bit in everything to be done. Um, More here and now are simple augmentation, productivity gain type scenarios, which are stuff like, the obvious ones are contact centers, how they're sort of shifting, how AI is doing a lot of the work of a customer agent, which couldn't be done earlier. What's happening to software engineering? At least each software engineer is today at the very least 2 to 3x productive if he or she is using AI well. What is happening in the legal world? So a lot of that is starting to happen, which is more same, but a little bit more faster, more efficient, and cheaper, is what is happening here and now. Long term, I think, again, the simplistic view is literally take every industry and there is going to be an AI equivalent, an AI native version of that industry. Today, the lawyer is using a little bit of technology to read through the documents, and maybe what they would have taken 5 hours to comment, now they're taking 3 hours to comment. To what is a universe in which your intern is an AI agent and you tell the agent to do everything, and then what does a firm look like? What does that firm structure look like? Do you have a very large law firm with just 10, 20 partners, which are all working with a multiple AI agents? So I feel every job, like right from what does an AI doctor look like? What does an AI auditor look like? What does an AI accounting firm look like? Everything is going to get reimagined. So that's what we're thinking through, almost industry by industry. What does an AI first bank look like? That's like a more 10, 20-year view. And then that requires going fairly deep to say what is really the cost structure of that industry, what is the workflow of that industry, what is like the organizational structure of that industry. And two things are happening in parallel. There is all these incumbents who are trying to learn and adopt AI, but to the point we made earlier, they're going to be band-aid solutions. There is legacy. And as technology evolves and you can truly have this AI agent, AI intern, you can really rethink each industry. So that's the more long-term industry by industry view we're taking.
Got very interesting. I think very few technology shifts that we can live through actually gives us this opportunity also, right? Which is to go through industry by industry and see how it's going to change. And I think that is very, very significant, right? Very, very significant. As you rightly said, mobile uh, was a platform change, not a structural change, right? Like it's a very different field to this. But I think AI is it's almost a new way of working, right? And there's a huge difference between a platform shift and a new way of working, right? And I think that's what Vas is alluding towards. Uh, Maybe I'll give you my view on, are enterprise ready for AI or not? I can tell you again, from an insider's view of Deserve, that it is not as easy as we think it is, right? Like to use AI is not as easy, right? Again, as Vas said, the first aspect of being an AI native company in an industry is how you structure every bit of your information flow in your organization, right? It actually starts all the way from there, right? And I can tell you that we've all heard of GIGO, right? Garbage in, garbage out. In AI, it is the garbage out is amplified to 100x, right? So if you have garbage in going out, it actually will throw you a whole mountain of garbage, right? Which actually becomes then tougher. And it is very the thing with and I keep saying this within our firm as well. The thing with AI garbage is it smells very nice, right? So you actually don't feel like it is garbage, right? It's not. It'll tell you 1 plus 1 is not 2, but in a very beautiful way, right? So you'll start believing it. So I think some this will take some amount of work, a lot of amount of work, I think, to get our enterprises, global enterprises, ready for AI, right? And who's going to do that? I can't think of anybody else apart from our companies who is probably going to do that. At the end of the day, it's a service. I still remember 15 years ago, people had written off Indian IT companies when cloud came through. and cloud adoption today still is 25% across enterprises.
A lot of it is being led by our IT companies who are helping
Exactly.
companies get onto the cloud, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, if you believe AI is going to end our IT companies, you should go and read what was written about our IT companies when cloud came through. Very, very, very similar. They rhyme. Cool. I'll be mindful of your time, and this is our last slide, which is ये सब तो ठीक है, करना क्या है, right? So what do we do now? Uh, so just to summarize, so far, I think what Vas is very, very candid enough to share his own mental model, which is think of something that improves, and that is AI. Uh, it is going to do a lot more change than what we can imagine. Uh, we have to hold both the fact that it's a bubble and a revolution together, and it's India is not a laggard in AI. India is probably up there when it comes to AI, and the thing that we need to care about is sovereignty, not so much our talent pool. So that's what we've seen so far, or we've heard so far. Now, ask the most important and sometimes the most difficult question, which is what if you were an investor, or if you were giving advice to an investor or to our clients, uh, what are the one or two things that you will leave them with?
I think we spoke about this earlier. So honestly, I have nothing very new to add, but I think it's a message worth repeating. I think one is just being reviewing what you're doing very faster than what you would have done in the past, because a lot more is happening, a lot more things are shifting, both at a fundamental level at technology, what companies are doing, and little bit of this because of this bubble we spoke about, or some hype at least. It could be a great company but not necessarily a great investment. I feel the biggest thing right now is to um, review what you're doing, your choices. A decision you made 6 months ago may not be the right decision today, just given a lot of these fundamental shifts happening on ground. So to me, that feels like the biggest one. Um, and also, one of the often repeated things in my line of business, and similarly for any investor, which I already said, is it may be a great generational company, but it may not necessarily need to have a find a place in your portfolio, because of either what your needs, requirement, risks are, or because of what the company is being valued at today. So that's the other one to keep in mind. Like, a great company is not a great investment, or a great asset is not necessarily a great investment to hold in your portfolio. Um, so those are two broad thoughts. And then, as always, uh, to summarize what Sushmit was saying, I think diversification is the only thing we do. Like, even in my line of business, we invest in multiple companies, and there are companies where fundamental technology shifts have made their business models obsolete. There are companies in which they've had to completely pivot what they were doing. There are times when a model provider has built what the company was building as a feature. That's the reality of the world. So you have to be in multiple of the companies.
Awesome. And I think, uh, you know, when the technology is so young, diversification is actually uh, an alpha generator rather than, an alpha minimizer. And I think that's something that a lot of our investors, it took me a lot of time, because what we are taught constantly is uh, concentration is the way to generate alpha. But sometimes when the technology is so new and it's evolving so rapidly and scaling so rapidly, actually, tech, you know, diversification is an alpha generator. Uh, cool. Maybe we'll take two more minutes of your time, Vas, and go through a few questions. We have actually answered most of them. Um, yeah. Anything that you've seen on real estate, right? Has AI, have you seen any example of AI coming through in real estate sector?
See, more broadly, impact on the physical world has been a little more limited, because stuff is yet to fully happen. But I feel two things are evolving rapidly there. One is vision models have really come of age. So as you really think through deeply, um, of understanding the physical world, and vision models getting better, um, there is going to be a universe in which there's going to be digital twins of buildings. There is going to be a lot of stuff you sit outside in and think about construction, so on and so forth. So that's more here and now. Like, I mean, I was reading this interesting article of, a lot of cities make digital twin of broadly how their cities are structured, where what is there, and then use that during disaster recovery and things like that. But certain cities in China have built like digital models of the complete building itself, right? Like where is the AC vents, where is the sewage, so on and so forth. And what that allows you to do in simple things like maintenance, to bespoke black swan events like a disaster is quite phenomenal. So I think vision models are evolving very, very fast, and that's going to have some impact. The other slightly more long-term one seems to be what happens to robotics, etc. That's also evolving very, very fast. Um, I mean, today humanoids, etc., are not too great, but again, when you think of self-driving cars 10 years now ago to what they are today, it's phenomenal. I think same thing's going to happen a little bit with robotics. So what does that do to construction, um, etc., is also going to be interesting to watch. The last point I'll make is more here and now. It is more on the sales side. You have voice, a bunch of other stuff helping. What would be largely human led to human assisted with AI assistance in the model.
Awesome. Uh, Great. I think we've covered most of the other questions in some part or the other. Great. On time, 104. Exactly 60 minutes flew past like 6 minutes. Thank you so much, Vas, for your time. And I learned so much, and I really had an amazing time chatting, as usual, as always. Uh, thank you everyone for logging in, and I hope it was worth an hour on Saturday, 15th of November. Thank you, Vas. Have a great day, and all of you have a great weekend.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
You all.
Thank you,
Bye.
Vas. Bye.